Well, I think my microphone is working, but the other sounds are not. Maybe. Oh, something is messed up anyway on the... Oh, boy. Everything is broken. Oh no, the video's broken. How weird. Okay. So I see my video, but I see what's going out is not correct. How weird. Y'all just see like 2 minutes and 55 seconds, right? On the thing. I don't know why that's the case. Mute the disable there. Ah, there. I think we're back. Are we good now? Can you see me and hear me? I don't know why it's not pointing at my head properly. There. All right. Are we good? Everything good? You can hear me, you can see me. I hope you can hear me and you can see me. I can see you. Actually, that's not true. That would be creepy. The music emoji is facing the other way in Discord. Well, I don't know. Looks all right. Yep. Good. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome. So it's kind of a big deal for me today, even though it'll probably mean nothing to anybody else. Hi, Blight Moose, Lava Rock, Andy, good to see you. Northern Chimp, Nerdbot, which is just a bot. It's good to see everyone. Let me take off my sunglasses. I closed up the last of my data centers at my last job. So if you don't know, I was working as a sysadmin for the past 2.5 years, something like that. So I wasn't making videos for CBT Nuggets. And they decided to stop doing most of the work with the cryptocurrency. But I still had to keep 5 data centers up and running, and I just got a tiny stipend to keep it running since last October. But on Friday, we shut down the last of the data centers, shut them down cold. And so that job is pretty much actually completely finished. And it's bittersweet, I mean, it took up a lot of real estate in my brain because I was 24/7 making sure things kept going. And it did not really mean much for a paycheck, but it also took away from my day job, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I am excited that it's over, and I keep feeling like I should be doing something, and that something is what I've been doing for the past over 3 years now, which is monitoring all of these 5 data centers with clusters of Filecoin mining clusters in them. So anyway, yeah, it's over. It's done. I'm weirdly excited, more than I thought I would be. Kind of since we stopped actively sealing, which I don't want to get into how Filecoin works, but we weren't actively sealing any more sectors. It was just kind of like releasing collateral slowly. And I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal when it was over, but it is. So, yeah, Northern Chimp, I was still at the same job, but doing, honestly, so I had done so much automation that the degree of work that I had to do didn't shrink as much as I think my boss expected it to when we were no longer actively sealing Filecoin sectors. But I still had to keep all the servers running and doing their daily everything and keeping them up to date with the latest software and all that stuff. So anyway, yeah, it was a lot more work than I think than I realized, because it had just become something I did 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it's like this weight lifted off of me, but in a weird way too, because now I feel like I should be doing something that I don't have to do. So my hope is here's not even my hope. My goal, and I'm not going to do it every week, but I hope to be able to on Mondays, like from here on out, do a complete skill at CBT Nuggets, which ends up being like 45 minutes of videos and all that stuff, and complete that. And then Tuesday, do the same thing. It's a lot of work, but theoretically I could do that and then have the rest of every week to work on passion projects like writing and making videos and doing all the kind of stuff that I would really love to be doing and just haven't because my brain's been too busy. But yeah, so that's what my plan is. Did I use Dockers with Kubernetes? I have never used Kubernetes in my life. I have to confess, I use Docker so much. I use Docker for anything and everything that I can use Docker for. But I don't, for work, I don't do Docker. So I never did like Docker for things at work that would require scaling or anything. So just for my own personal stuff, I use Docker, and I don't do Kubernetes with like clustering stuff. I just have a Docker server and it's on a Proxmox cluster. So if something goes wrong with one of the servers, I can migrate my Docker server to, it'll automatically actually migrate to another one of the Proxmox servers, but I just have the one Docker server running a bunch of containers. And I just manually control the Docker containers with systemd, which is kind of lame of me, I know. But yeah, so I, like, for example, a project that I did yesterday and Friday after we shut down the last of the data centers, I didn't know what to do with myself. It was kind of late in the day, so I didn't want to start working on a skill for CBT Nuggets only to have the weekend come. So I put, I always called it Calibre, but I think it's Calibre, the ebook server. And I containerized it. I put it on Docker, and then Calibre Web I have in another Docker container, and they, share a backend data source and everything. So that's what I was working on. But yeah, so I will spin up Docker, and then if I have to use Docker Compose, because some things work best with Docker Compose, like for example, a WordPress install, I think it works best with Docker Compose, where you have the MySQL database container and the WordPress Apache container controlled with Docker Compose so that they work together, come up and down together. And I will just create a folder on my system. It's opt Docker and then the name of the process, like Brain of Sean is literally the folder that I do this in. And then I'll have a Docker Compose file in there. And that's also the place where I will map volumes, like my MySQL database volume is mapped in that folder, and the contents for WordPress are mapped there. And then I use systemd to start and stop even my Docker Compose stuff. I don't use Docker's built-in start and stop stuff. I do that manually with systemd, so I can treat it like any other service, like I just do, systemd start, systemd stop, and then enable and disable if I want it to start on boot. So anyway, that's how I handle my Docker containers. I've never used Kubernetes. If I had to get a job somewhere, I'm sure I would, because that's all the rage now. Bite Moose, I'll take it. I did not have time to get a cup of tea today, oddly enough. I was I was what was I doing today? I don't even know. It's Sunday. Um so I was playing with puppies. I have grand puppies here. Oh, I was doing dishes. I did some dishes today. It's been weird for me not having the stuff to do. So I didn't make a cup of tea, but I need a cup of tea. I just had a cup of coffee, but yeah, I haven't had tea in a while, so I'll have to make some tea soon, unfortunately. Scott, I am doing well. I don't know if you heard at the beginning, but closed down the last of the data centers on Friday. So my old job is like actually finished now, even though like I officially wasn't at that job full time since the middle of October. I've been still working on it full time, and now that's done. So I'm really glad about that. Been using Docker with Apache Sling development. Really quick. Oh, cool. I don't even know what is Apache Sling. I don't know what Apache Sling is, but that's okay. I just love Docker. I really, really do. Scott, no need to be sorry. You're building a temporary case for your spare parts computer. That is awesome. I like spare parts computers. And Lava Rock. Yeah. So let me see if I can find it quickly. I don't know if I will be able to or not. I actually made a video on how I do Docker stuff. Nope, that's not where I wanted to go. And you can't even see where I am. I'm on YouTube. Now I'm in YouTube Studio. Now I'm in YouTube Studio Content tab, Playlists. I think I have a Docker playlist. Do I have a, you know what? I bet I have a Docker playlist, and I probably even have a short code for it, and I should have just used that, and I didn't. Get a shareable link. Okay. Here is the shareable link. And I wonder if this works. HTTPS, Snarko, Docker. Does that do anything? I don't even know if that's a real link. I usually try to make a, I usually try to make a short link when I do a Docker thing, but oh, no, maybe not. No, I didn't make that short link. Maybe I should. I should do it now because now I posted that there and it's bogus. I will make that link. Oh, come on, log me in. I use a program called Yorls for short links. Okay. Docker, shorten the URL. There, now that Snarko link should work too. Test it again. It should take us to the Snarko or to the Docker playlist. And look at that, it did. Okay. So anyway, good fishy. Hello. Hi, Lizzie and Megan. Oh, Lizzie. So this is my daughter, everyone. Hi, Lizzie. And her friend Megan. Lizzie is actually visiting Megan where Megan lives in another town because my daughter's a grown woman and she can drive to other towns on her own. And I have her puppy here with me. So that's one of the grand puppies I was talking about, I was playing with earlier. But yes, hi. I hope you are not watching while driving. But you're allowed to listen while you drive, I suppose. And I guess one of you could watch while the other drove. But anyway, yeah, have a safe trip home because I know that Lizzie is headed home after dropping. Okay, well, drive safe all the way home. Good fishy, Lizzie. And Megan, I hope you had a good time this weekend with Lizzie, who was really excited to come down. So anyway, but Bite Moose just bookmarked it. Good. Yeah, I don't think I have a whole lot of Docker content on YouTube, but I have some, so I put it there. Oh yeah, Scott, show us a link of the motherboard or the case you made for the motherboard. That would be, would all love to see that. And I think if you post a link, it'll show up in, oh, it's on my Discord. Oh, wait, maybe. Oh, there. Oh, sweet. So can I post this image? I don't know how to do that. Will it let me? Let's see. I don't even, well, I'm just going to pull it down here. All right. Was that? Yep. Can I show everybody? Are you okay with me showing looks like your kitchen here? All right, cool. Share it. I don't know how to share it quickly. So I'm just going to go to here. this is it. And I'm pretty darn sure that it is this awesome case here. Yeah, yeah. Hey man, if it works, don't fix it, right? I do love the pocket knifed or box cuttered ports. That's awesome stuff, man. Is it attached to the bottom in any way? Because that's some next level nerdery there. I can appreciate that. Oh, there we go. Oh, wrong camera. This is up here. I'm not looking at that camera now. I'm looking down here. Okay. Yeah, I just shared the screen. Lava Rock, exactly. Yeah, it was easier for me just to share the screen than figure out how to share it with everybody. Adjust it as needed with that case. Yeah, that's the beauty of that sort of a case. It's custom as you go. It's better than 3D printed. It's adjust on the go. It's like a Lego case, but with even more flexibility than Legos. Let's see. So have I ever used Kali Linux before? Beck tips. I have used Kali Linux before, specifically when I was making the Pen Test Plus course at CBT Nuggets. I used Kali Linux to demonstrate some things. It's been a few years. On a regular basis, I don't use it a whole lot. I don't. I don't do that sort of stuff very often. I just like to tinker and install software and use software and like the Calibre thing, right? The Calibre Docker container. So do you want to hear something cool? I think I can show it. I think it doesn't like expose any. I mean, it's all internal, so it's not like anybody's going to see it. Let me see if I can. I don't think it shows. Yeah. Let's go back to my Wacom. Okay, so here I am. So, for example, that Docker project I was talking about where I put Calibre, I keep thinking Calibre, but I know I've heard the developer pronounce it and it's Calibre. So, if I go to, it's kind of a weird reflection on the screen for me. Pull it over a little. There we go. All right. If I go to PowersFlix, which is an internal thing, 80, nope. I think it's 6080. Yeah. So this is actually a Docker container, and it's running, it's running X Windows, which is really cool. I've never actually used a Docker container like this, but it's a Docker container that runs X Windows and it exposes a VNC server, and then and then you connect to a port and you're automatically connected as if it were a server, a GUI server. It's running a GUI inside a Docker container. This is the first time I've ever done that. But it's just, I love the ability now to run a GUI app in a Docker container. And I'd never done that before, but it's what is it? It uses Chasm VNC, which apparently you can put in a Docker container pretty easily. And it's just the cat's meow. I say that with John Scalzi's starter villain up there. It's just awesome. So I'm a big fan of this, and this is something I just learned this weekend. So anyway, you get to see some of my favorite authors. Kevin Hearn, one of my very favorite authors. He's so awesome. You should get all of his books. I have several sets of his books. He's one of those, I don't know if you have any of those authors that when they announce a book, you immediately pre-order. But for me, one of those is Kevin Hearn. Yeah, his stuff is awesome. Sometimes I'll reread the Iron Druid Chronicles just to revisit old friends, which is just so cool. Anyway, I'm gonna get back to live side. There we go. I lost my mouse. Got my Linux Essentials exam coming up and I watched all your course. Oh, sweet. Good. Well, that's awesome. I hope my course up. There was somebody who just passed it yesterday. Yesterday. If you look on some of the videos on those or some of the comments on those videos, he passed just yesterday. I think he passed. It was like he commented he was going to take it, and then somebody else commented passed in like 27 minutes or something. I don't know, but I'm hoping that it went well. So anyway, as far as practice exams, I don't honestly know. And I know a lot of people have passed the exam after just watching my course. And I'm not saying that like my course is so awesome, but like it covered enough stuff that you can actually, if you're confident with the material that we covered, it's enough to pass the course. So hopefully that's good. I don't know any practice exam places though. When I worked at, well, I work at CBT Nuggets again. I know that they have like a partnership with another company that does practice exams. So if you're a CBT Nuggets person, I think my course isn't the Linux Essentials course anymore. It's one of the other trainers did one while I wasn't working there. But if there's a practice exam, I think that's included in a CBT Nuggets subscription. But again, I don't know the details there. I've never actually been a part of that. Do I think Linux OS will dominate server and supercomputers in the future? At least for the foreseeable future. I don't think there's any reason for it not to, right? I mean, economically, it makes great sense for cloud providers and for everybody who wants to run software. It's like I mean, it's the way to run apps now. And if you can run apps securely on software that you know is going to be rock solid and ubiquitous and work everywhere, why would you want to do it anywhere else? So I think that at least for the foreseeable future, Linux will definitely be dominant in server in cloud-based stuff, which is server-based stuff. So yeah, yeah, and yeah, Boyan is right. I mean, it already does, and I think it's going to continue to just because of the openness. It's like the success story of open source, right? It's become ubiquitous, and companies will invest money to make Linux better even if it benefits other people, just because it's kind of like that's now become the equal, like the level playing field kind of thing. Like everybody can use Linux and build whatever they want on top of it, and other open source things too, not just Linux, but Linux is the operating system that is running most everything now. So yeah, I think it's here to stay. Well, how we interact with it continues to change, right? I mean, cloud interfaces are different than the traditional command line, but I'm always a fan of knowing what is going on behind the scenes, like whether you're automating something with DevOps tools or using like an API to access things via cloud. I think it's really good to know what's going on behind the scenes. So when something goes wrong, you have an idea of how to fix it. But that's just me preaching. How many more Linux Plus do I think I'll make? As many as it, yeah. I feel close to them, but there's still like 2 sections. I just hope that those sections go quicker. I was so the plan was, in fact, when we talked last week, I was like, oh, and I'll have a video tomorrow. But then we accelerated the data center shutdown plan at my last job. That's actually why there wasn't a video last week. We actually shut down 2 data centers last week. It was gonna go into this next week as well, but we shut down 2 data centers last week, and then I had to. There was more stuff. Last week was crazy busy shutting everything down. So yeah, hopefully we'll continue on a steady pace starting this week. And I don't know how many more it'll take. I go objective by objective. So, I mean, here, putting a link in here. I think you can click on it if I type it. We'll see. Plus objectives. So those are the Linux Plus objectives. If you can't click on it in wherever you are, in the Discord, it makes a clickable link in the live stream thing. But anyway, I've been going section by section, but like we're currently on a 3.1. Are we on 3.1 right now? And like I can't do it in one video. So like we've done 3.1.1, 3.1.2. The next one is 3.1.3, which is I already have it sketched out here. It's going to be bash, globbing, and brace expansion, talking about stuff. So we're on section 3.1 of the objectives, but I have to break it into multiple videos. So it'll be however many videos it takes for me to cover all the objectives that are listed. Hopefully that makes sense. On a side note, Ubuntu is starting to push Pro Client. Yeah, Bite Moose, I don't know if it was you last week that was talking about that. That annoys me. I'm bummed about that because I really like using Ubuntu, especially server. I like Ubuntu server because it's common, it's everywhere. It works really well out of the box. I don't know. I might have to switch back over to Debian. The only reason that I haven't been using Debian as my base server for pretty much everything I do is sometimes you have to do more to get Debian to work out of the box, unfortunately. But we'll see. Um, yeah, that bums me out though. It might have been you last week that mentioned it, and yeah, that's a bummer. How does it feel as a network engineer to shut things down? Weird. I'm not gonna lie, it feels weird because I mean I was the network engineer, I was the system administrator. I mean, there were two of us that did stuff. There was the hardware guy who would physically fly to the data centers and install and rack hardware and like replace hard drives when they failed and plug stuff in. And then I was the guy that set up, the networking, and I set up the VPNs, and I set up the servers and communicating and NFS and all the stuff inside the data centers was all me. And yeah, it's weird to shut everything down. It's like, and all the code that I wrote, I mean, there was custom maintenance code and update code and fix it yourself codes that would, like detect errors and then fix themselves, not using AI, just using my intelligence, which is highly suspect. But all that code is worthless now, and it's in a GitHub repository that I don't own, and it's weird. It's really weird is the answer to that question. It's like the end of an era, and I know that's a cliche thing to say, but it really feels like that. So anyway, this is part of the reason. Yeah, and Debian or Mint went to their Debian version a while ago, and it used to just be that it was rolling. But is that still the case? Is that the difference with Mint? Is that the Debian Mint or Mint Debian, however they say it, is like a rolling release, like it's always on testing or something? I don't even know what I haven't used. I was never really a Mint user. But anyway, yeah, I might have to just start using Debian plain for servers. And most of the stuff I do now, quite honestly, is in Docker. So it doesn't really matter what I'm running. And there's probably far better operating systems to use for hosting Docker. I mean, I know that there's some that are designed for it, but I don't need that fancy management stuff. Let's see. Can I continue the Linux objective tutorial? I'm not sure what you mean. Back tips. Do you mean like, can I continue Linux Plus, like continue doing the Linux Plus course? Because I can continue to do that. I'm going to finish that. I got permission in my contract at CBT Nuggets that I can finish and post the Linux Plus, and then I can continue to do things that I haven't made for them in the past or I'm not currently making for them. So like I could do an A+ course because I've never done A+ or something like that. But yeah, I can continue with certain things. Like I can't do a Google Cloud course on YouTube because I'm doing that for CBT Nuggets. Oh, hello, Milbert. This is my grandpuppy, just came up to visit. Yeah, I think it's testing too. That's kind of been that was a standard practice. I mean, I used Debian for years and years as my daily driver, and using testing was generally what most people did. Just downloaded Mint Mate. Oh, I didn't even know there was a Mint Mate. Oh, wait. I guess there's you can choose to use like cinnamon or mate or whatever. Yeah, again, I've never really used it, but it's interesting. Not sure if it's worth putting Rocky Linux. I don't know the state of Rocky Linux and Alma Linux these days. I think Jeff Geerling has been still a fan of Rocky, and I would kind of trust his opinion on things. So yeah, OpenSUSE is good. I am very, very unfamiliar with OpenSUSE. Like the zipper program, I just don't know how OpenSUSE handles things. I don't know like what directory structure they use. I'm pretty sure it uses RPMs, but it uses the zipper program to install and manage things. It would be very difficult for me to move away from an apt-based system just because that's how my fingers think before my brain even engages using the apt tools. So, but yeah, and when I worked at Linux Journal, the sysadmin there, who was like in charge of our servers and stuff, he was an OpenSUSE guy. Mitch was his name, and he did some of our videos too, but I can't even point you to them because the Linux Journal YouTube channel got taken offline during one of the sales. But anyway, Mitch was a big OpenSUSE fan, so all the Linux Journal servers are running OpenSUSE. Have I ever played around with Raspberry Pis? Yes, I have. Not as much as I'd like. I try to do a few projects with Raspberry Pis, like I tried to use their camera and all sorts of stuff. I have a Raspberry Pi in a co-location place in Austria, like the very first one with Ethernet. I have there. Um, yeah, it's Raspberry Pis are cool. They really are. And now the thing that I want to have more time to play with and I don't are ESP, like 8266 is an ESP 32s. They're just fun little tiny Arduino boards. They just seem like they seem to fill that niche that Raspberry Pis did in years past. Now Raspberry Pis are so powerful. They're basically full blown computers. So anyway, yeah. So Apple, it's funny, Andy. Yeah, you should be able to use Apple with SUSE. And I am so not a Red Hat user. I mean, I've trained on it and I've used it before. And I mean, I even back when I worked at the school, we used RHEL for uh, the Linux terminal server stuff. But I'm just so unfamiliar with RPM. I mean, my time using RPMs based systems regularly was long before they were um, great. There were so many conflicts when I used it before, and I know that's all been solved. It's at least as good as apt based systems are these days, but I just haven't used them very much. Um, but so I just need to learn a load of yeah. I mean there's two big families, right? There's RPM based and there's apt based or deb based, however you want to refer to them, and those most distributions fall into those, and then there are the other ones. I mean, like Slackware and Gentoo, the things where you compile your own, and most distributions depend, regardless of whether they're RPM or deb based systems, tend to use systemd for everything these days, which I have a love-hate relationship with systemd. I think it's very powerful and I like using it to start and stop system programs, but I think it does too much. It just does everything. And then like there's weird wrappers to make it function like before systemd took over everything, like the FS tab file for mounting file systems now isn't even like systemd somehow wraps around that. I don't even know. Systemd is just everywhere. So anyway, oh, and Arch Linux. Yeah, that's another one. Scott points out Arch Linux is there as well. Andy uses RHEL and SUSE at work and Debian at home. Yeah. I've never really used any Red Hat based thing at home. I tried on a laptop to use Fedora a bit, and it was just like frustrating because like everything I wanted to do, I had to Google it. So yeah, I'm just back to Debian. And when I was running on this, these monitors, not this computer, because this computer is now a Mac Studio. But when I was running Linux, it was just vanilla Debian that I was running, and it took a long time to get things going. But it's that kind of thing where you tweak it so that it's just exactly how you want it in every way possible. So it feels good. I do like that. But I'm a fan of OS 10 or Mac OS or whatever it's called now, and I got this Mac Studio when I started back at CBT Nuggets, and so I do enjoy that. It's a nice system. I like Mac OS because it has a real terminal window, which is cool. But anyway, but I digress. No, you don't need to go outside. We've been outside so many times. Yeah, we have. Anyway, yeah, Gentoo is if you're a masochist, and I mean the jokes were always, Gentoo couldn't be here; it was still compiling, that sort of a thing. Was anybody here at Scale this past weekend? Maybe it's still going on. I think it's over. I think Scale is over. The Southern California Linux Expo. I was hoping to go this year, but with all the job changes, obviously I couldn't. But some friends of mine were there, and I guess it went well. So anyway, oh my gosh! And now our old dog is outside barking like an idiot too to come inside. So I might, maybe I'll try to take you with me to go down, let the dog in. I wonder if I still have the ability. Let's see. Let's see if I have the ability. The ability to go mobile. Remember last time I tried to go mobile? It's been a while. Oh, don't subscribe. I don't know if this is gonna. It doesn't look promising. Where am I streaming to? connections. OBS. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Oh, wow. They put a big thing over it now. All right. No, I just won't then. Never mind. Sheesh. That's just horrible. All right. I don't have a way to go mobile anymore. I'll be right back. I'm going to go let the dogs out. Or let the dog in. It's pretty cold out. I don't think I have anything fun to look at while I'm gone, do I? Let's see. Front feeder? Is this a... All right, out here. Wow, the birds didn't even show up. What a bunch of jerks. All right, sorry about that. Okay, what did I miss? I saw a recent Red Hat conference, and there seems to be debatable. Yeah, systemd is just everywhere in a weird way. I don't know if Fink is still a thing. Gosh, I vaguely remember Fink. I use Homebrew, or just Brew is the command line tool on Mac OS, and it, like everything, I'm like, oh, I missed this tool from Linux. It's in Brew. It's pretty cool. Like the YT-DLP, like the YouTube downloader command line version that just does so well. It's in Homebrew for Mac OS, so that works perfectly. I hope to go to Ohio Linux Fest. I think it's this fall, right? I think we looked it up. I think it's in the fall. I'm not gonna like do a call for papers, and I don't know if I'm gonna. Well, depending on how the next few months go, but yeah, I do want to go to Ohio Linux Fest, and that's when I can drive to, assuming I can get my truck fixed. Heck, are these stones alive? The stones? Oh, that's birdseed. If we were talking about the yeah, no birds showed up though. Oh, don't have them in the UK. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Yeah, that is a bummer. I think we did talk about that last week too. There are fewer Linux conferences and fewer Linux lugs, like Linux user groups, than there used to be. Again, because it's kind of become ubiquitous. It's just, it is what it is. Yeah. So anyway, hopefully I can go to Ohio Linux Fest. I wanted to go to Scale this year, but when the job changed, I knew there was just no way. In fact, I was really glad I didn't reserve a hotel room or something and really be upset that I couldn't go, because there's just no way that I could go before then. Yeah. Oh, did I say last week that I have another granddaughter on the way? Because that's kind of big news, not tech related, but Dragon, Emmy, who I refer to as Dragon, is going to have a little sister in September. So there will be a new dragon in the family. It's going to be Murphy, will be her name. So anyway, yeah, I'll have 2 grandkids this fall. And trying to think if that's all the news. I mean, obviously the biggest news for me this week is that the last job is done and it's no longer taking up almost free rent in my brain anymore. So that's a very, very good thing, at least for my health, I think. And hopefully for my productivity and for my ability to do other stuff. But does anybody have any questions about what's going to be happening? Like I've had the most requests to do a Red Hat course and Somebody mentioned an A plus course, which I've never done an A plus course before. So that one actually does kind of sound exciting for me because I taught A plus back when had a Cisco Academy. I taught Cisco Academy in a high school when I was a tech director there, and part of that was prepping students for their A plus exam. So I haven't done that in, gosh, it's been like 20 years. But I could do an A plus course because I've never done that at CBT Nuggets. So that might be something I do. I know it's not Linux specific. It's like a step back from Linux, but a little more broad. And it's one of the things that we usually point people to first, like, so you want to get into computers? Have you taken A plus or looked at A plus? Yeah. Oh, several of Scott's rusty friends are in the UK. Okay, so you say UK and Rust, and it makes me think of story. So I had a grandfather, my grandpa Walt, who was actually not biological grandfather. He married my grandmother. My grandma and grandpa got divorced at some point, I don't know when, but then before I was born. And she remarried a man named Walt, who was from somewhere in the UK, in England. I'm not exactly sure where in England, to be honest. But he was my grandpa that had a cool British accent. But when I was born, I had the reddest hair you've ever seen. It was just flaming red hair. And Grandpa Walt called me Rusty when I was born because of my red hair. And for the rest of his life, he called me Rusty. And he's the only person in my life who ever called me Rusty. My red hair went away after a few months, and then it went white blonde. And, when I turned into a teenager or whatever, it went away from like the platinum blonde to just brown. The green is not natural. But yeah, so the only nickname actually I think I've ever had is Rusty, and it was from my grandfather, who was from the UK. So yeah, that's my UK and Rust connection there. A plus is more advanced today. Interesting. Yeah, I would like, I'll look into A plus stuff for sure. I think it covers, so it's funny. I think A plus covers some of the things that the CCNA covered back then. Like it was part of the CCNA to do like, RJ45 jacks, like 568A, 568B standards, and like how to crimp cables. And I think that's part of A plus now. And I don't think it was part of A plus back then. I still taught it, but I think it was part of the CCNA back then. So anyway, yeah, I am curious to look at A plus, to see what is in it. Now I know, and I certainly won't be doing it for CBT Nuggets. They just released a new A plus course. I think Jeff Kish did it, or a lot of it. I think it might've been multiple trainers that worked on it, but yeah. More than a decade ago, my Linux or my LPIC 1 and LPIC 2 courses changed your life forever. Awesome. That's great to hear, boy. And I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, I did LPIC 1. I revved that several times over the years. And I think I only did LPIC 2 once. I think it was just like one and done with LPIC 2. So there's fewer and fewer people. Oh goodness, I was petting my cat, and it's the time of year where fluff just flies off. Anyway, so like there's a big group of people, like a huge group that do Linux Essentials, right? That was my most popular course at CBT Nuggets. And then a significant portion of those people go and they take LPIC 1. And then a smaller portion of those people take LPIC 2. And so the popularity and like how many times it was consumed at CBT Nuggets got like an order of magnitude smaller. And so they never had me do LPIC 3 at CBT Nuggets because it's like the people who would take it would be so few that it didn't seem like the juice was worth the squeeze to them. So LPIC 2 was as advanced as I ever got making stuff for CBT Nuggets. And the same is kind of true for YouTube, right? Like doing LPIC 3 stuff, I mean, it'd be like 4 people that would be interested in watching it. So yeah, it's interesting. Rusty's my new nickname. Yeah, and It's funny. I'd say, oh, it doesn't make sense. It didn't make sense my whole life because, again, my red hair went away almost immediately after I was born. There's only like a couple pictures of me with red hair. Um, but yeah, he called me Rusty. I mean, he passed away a long time ago now, but uh, the whole time that I knew him, he called me Rusty. So that was interesting. Cable crimping course. Yeah. And maybe, I mean, if I did an A+ course, I would have to actually do research and see if there's a reason why almost everybody uses the 568B standard instead of 568A. Um, but because you would think A would be the one that everybody used, but no, I mean, 568B is pretty much the standard. And with the advent of gigabit Ethernet, it really doesn't matter because crossover cables are um, not really, it doesn't matter, right? Because gigabit is auto sensing. And so you don't have to worry about um, crossover cables, what we used to. With 100 megabit connections, we used to have to use crossover cables if we connected like a switch to a switch. I have to even remember, like, it was even difficult for me to like think, wait, what did we use crossover switches for? But it was going from a switch to another switch. You couldn't use a standard uh, Ethernet cable. You had to use one that was 568A on one side and 568B on another side. So XR, open to be wrong here, but the LPIC exams felt extremely theoretical. God, it's been a long time since I took LPIC exams themselves. But and when I took them, I think the ability to do any sort of simulated stuff really was difficult for the companies. And I think that these days the tests are more simulations and less just rote memorization. Like I know Linux Plus has like some pretty well done simulations. I mean, they're not full blown VMs or anything like that. They're just simulations, but they're decent for a little more hands on stuff. And yeah, but I haven't taken LPIC exams in so many years that I have no idea what they look like now. Byte Moose, is there much call for the higher Linux certs? No, and that's the thing. I think there are people who take the higher level certs, but when it comes to trying to reach the most people to be the most beneficial, and I mean, in the YouTube world, to get the most clicks and most views or whatever, the number of people that want those high level certs are so much smaller that it's difficult to find training for it. Especially, decent training that is easy to come by. So yeah, it's this weird sort of thing where they, the smaller number of people that want them make it so that it's difficult to get good training because it's not as practical to make training for such a small number of interested parties. So Lava Rock, yeah, the auto sensing that came with Gigabit just made all of the crossover cable stuff irrelevant. And now, I mean, you can't even get something that's not gigabit. So I wonder if they even teach what a crossover cable is in the whatever courses teach it. I've never taken Network Plus either from CompTIA, so I don't even know what all those things cover. But yeah, I don't even know if they talk about crossover cables anymore because they're moot. Is there calling? So let's see. When I took LPIC a while ago, I took the RHCSA a few weeks later, which was fully lab based. Okay, yeah, I don't know. I don't know, and I've never taken the Red Hat courses at all. I've never taken them. And the lab based, last time I took a lab based course, it was the Linux Foundation, and their lab base was so convoluted and so horrible. I failed a course that I actually made training for that people used to pass the exam, but I failed it because the lab thing crashed multiple times while I was on it. And I ran out of time, and tab complete didn't work, and they had weird path names. It was the weirdest thing. It was such a bizarre testing experience. And that was the Linux Foundation stuff. But I'm as sure as it couldn't have gotten worse. So it's must have only gotten better since then. I'm sure it's better than it was. I wrote a scathing disappointment to them and said, hey, this is just a horrible experience. So hopefully it's better now. Is there, so This is an odd question, not odd question. It's tough to answer. There's I don't know if there's a call for higher certs when it comes to getting jobs. Sometimes if you have a job, getting more certs or higher certs can mean a pay raise or something. But the job force is so bizarre these days that I just can't even give a good example. I just don't even know what to recommend for people anymore because yeah, it's just so frustrating. Andy, yeah, A plus kept 3.5. Oh, wow. Oh, wait, they're not around. I wonder if they're around anymore. That's interesting. Yeah, 3.5-inch floppies. That's been a while. It's been now I have some 3.5-inch floppy size coasters like that I like to use for drinks because it makes me feel nostalgic. But oh boy, let's see. The hot stuff of today is containers and orchestration, automation. Yes, this is very true. Um, man, Kubernetes, and you go to KubeCon and it's just, I mean, it's expensive. It's all the rage. Yeah, containers, orchestration, Kubernetes, continuous integration, continuous deployment, whatever those things are. But I put it up here for that last sentence there. Yes, it's still essential to know Linux, not even because you're going to be directly using it all the time, but because knowing what's happening underneath all of that orchestration and containers and automation, like, I mean, containers, knowing what that even means kind of requires some Linux background. And if you want to be effective when things go wrong, understanding what's happening behind the scenes is important, in my opinion, anyway. I wouldn't want to hire somebody who didn't understand Linux. But again, I'm not hiring people. I've been on a lot of hiring committees, but not in the past few years. What should I lock in for Linux Essentials? Honestly, I'm not just saying this to toot my own horn, but if you go through my Linux Essentials course and it all makes sense, you're going to be pretty prepped for the Linux Essentials exam. I mean, I covered all the objectives in there, and I'm pretty confident that it was well rounded. So I'm pretty proud of that course. And there have been quite a few people, read some of the comments in a lot of the videos, especially like the last videos or whatever, and see what people say. It seems to be pretty, cover all the topics pretty well. So, apart from that, I'm sure there are other things out there. There's books and there are other courses. Sometimes learning from multiple places just like hits different. So something that didn't quite click with the way I teach it might click with the way somebody else teaches it. So, there's advantages to having multiple learning methods and trainers, but I'm pretty confident that it covers all the things well. XArgs, here's some of the things I've been reflecting on recently. Cloud computing has added more layers of abstraction. That's very true, meaning we have loads of people skilled in the surface level of technology. Yeah, that is true. And it's also allowed people who are developer heavy, so they understand development pretty well, to do things that have traditionally required people with system administration and operating system or operations skills to be a part of. They can kind of automate those things away, which is both good but also scary, because if you're just, if your operations experience is through an API, again, when something goes wrong, you need somebody to be behind that API to say, oh, what happened is, this certificate expired between point A and point B. So it's not, it's not successfully giving you the API token or whatever, I mean, you have to, that wasn't a great example, but yeah, you do. And that's a really good point. XArgs. Indy, I think they did pull floppies. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes it's nice just to know that stuff, but yeah. Yeah, and XArgs, you're right. And they can be very successful without knowing what's happening behind the scenes, but you gotta have people who know what's happening. Or you should. I think you kind of could be in trouble if you don't. And if the argument is, well, I'm going to be using, cloud computing, so everything behind the scenes is managed by the cloud company. I mean, that could be a fair point, right? I mean, that's valid. But yeah, I don't know if you're okay with that black box mentality. Just know that your folks aren't going to be changing anything behind that API. Yeah. Oh, that's a good point too. Um, a lot of abstraction, and yes, security is a lot of the why. But it does make developers far more powerful and able to do things that they couldn't do without the help of operations before. But yeah, I think a lot of those security things are being pushed to the larger providers, which in some ways is a good thing. But again, I don't know. I don't know. I'm a crusty old sysadmin at heart, so it's hard to say. uh, Yeah, this is true. I mean, it's cliche at this point, right? The bastard operator from hell. Um, and part of that is ops fault for being kind of douchey. But it's not all ops fault. Sometimes the developers, or in my case, it wasn't even devs. It was sometimes users, just want and expect unreasonable things. And so yeah, it's always been a tense relationship between dev and ops when it wasn't, before it was one thing. So yeah, that's true. Um, yeah, yeah. There's a lot of people with a lot of letters behind their names. That's for sure. I'm not one of those people. I'm at this point. I'm happy that I have that. I wouldn't want to go out and look for a new job right now. I truly wouldn't, because wow, I don't envy people who are looking for new jobs these days. I mean, I'm an old man, um, and thankfully, what I know pretty well, and teaching is something I enjoy. I expect that for the rest of my working uh, career, I will be able to continue to do what I'm doing. But somebody new coming up, you got to know all that. Like, development used to be optional, and it's certainly not now. And yeah, security through obscurity is, oof, that's a scary thought. And it's now almost like security through what? Layers of abstractability? I don't even know. Again, just pushing security off to the back end provider. But when you don't focus on security, there are still things. I mean, when you are writing the stuff that is consumer or customer facing, you're still opening yourself up to at least some local security holes. So anyway, um, and yeah, and I say this as a sysadmin at heart. I mean, that's my first and biggest identification as a sysadmin. And yeah, I think that we are grumpy for valid reasons. But yeah, we can be grouchy. It's true. We can be grouchy. My TCP UDP analogy of a son and father playing catch. Okay, I have to confess, that's awesome. I don't even remember what analogy. Usually when I'm making videos, I will just pull something out of my rear end, and I'm glad that it worked and stuck. Because I don't even remember the analogy myself, but that's fine. That's awesome. And I'm glad that it was a good analogy. I'm gonna have to look it up if it was in my Linux Essentials course. Now I'm curious. But yeah, holy cow, we're almost out of time. Um, yeah. So if I seem a little lighter spirits today, it's because my last job is actually done now. Um, and I don't have sunglasses. Oh, this is what I'm feeling. Um, so I hope that it frees me up a little bit to do other stuff. And yeah, it's exciting. Summer is coming. My wife gets her cast off this week, which is just stinking awesome. Um, she'll still be in a boot and she won't be able to bear any weight on it, but she'll not have to wear a cast forever. So anyway, boy, in too many unhealthy abstractions these days, I have a love-hate relationship with container orchestration, Kubernetes. Yeah, I understand why this is the way that things happen now, right? Because again, fewer people can manage it, and it can be done programmatically. So devs have it's a lot faster to implement things, but the abstraction is a little disconcerting. And I just like to know how things work. I just like to know how things work. And that is not how it works with, just using orchestration via software. You just don't know really what's happening. You just kind of like write the code and it magically happens. And as much as magic impresses me, I don't like to depend on it. So, So yeah. Um, I'm trying to think anything else. I haven't been working on any projects other than, like I said, I moved my ebook collection to Docker this weekend, yesterday, Friday afternoon, and yesterday. Um, Not a whole lot else is going on. Yeah, just because things are new doesn't mean it's better. Yeah, that's true. Cloud computing and mainframe computing, they do have a lot in common. And I think we talked last week that there are some companies who are finding that going back to an on-prem system is saving them money, which is fascinating. I think that's largely to do with storage and the amount of data passed through. If you have large quantities of data, I think that cloud computing can start to get expensive really quick. But anyway, yes, green hair, but also green shirt today for St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. As a vegetarian, I find it less fun food wise. I mean, there's a restaurant in town that I love that has this special where they, do the corned beef and pearl onions and potatoes and carrots. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful meal. And I miss it. So yeah, maybe I'll get a shamrock shake today and call it festive. But anyway, thank you everyone for tuning in. It's kind of a big turnout today, 16 people here right now, which is awesome. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Yeah, I can't believe it went by so fast. I don't know why work can't be this enjoyable. Maybe someday, right? I got rid of the one job, so now I can focus on this a little bit more as long as I can do my other work. Anyway, have a great week, everyone. I look forward to talking to everybody next week, where the time sync with the UK will line up, right? I think you guys go back next Saturday night, Sunday morning. I think you do the spring forward thing. So yeah, see everybody next week. Remember to learn everything, do what you love, and most importantly, be kind. I'll see you next time as I find the way to end.